So about 13 years ago, I think I must have been 26, I'd just been elected president of ISIC International, a large student organization, 50,000 students in 87 countries. And needless to say, I was a little nervous about how I was going to be able to do in the work ahead of me. And I was also reading The Fifth Discipline at the time, and the field book. And as a result of that, at the beginning of my term, I camped out. We were in Brussels. I camped out in a park for a weekend. People might have thought it was a bit odd. And I worked through a lot of the exercises from that book, and the one that was the most powerful for me was actually writing about my vision of what we might do as if it was unfolding already, as if it was happening already. We had the most incredible year, and at the end of the year, I kind of came back to what I'd been writing, and it was like a weekend of just full immersion, and was struck by how much of that had come to pass, and not just in terms of specifics, but I think maybe more importantly in terms of how we were together as a team. And so I'm sure there are millions of stories like that of how Peter's writing and clarity and insight have actually affected the course of history. You know, we did something that we might not have been able to do as clearly or as well if we hadn't had that grounded inspiration. The other book that was our compass at the time was, in fact, Leadership in the New Science. So two important friends of ALIA were with us during that time. And then through the Institute, I've come to feel like I know Peter a little bit over the years, and I know him to be I've come to know him as a incredibly thoughtful, gentle, and genuinely curious person. And sometimes the superstars, you think superstars, it gets to their head. And I don't have that feeling at all with Peter. And so I'm really pleased that he could make it, that he could join us. I think he's aware that he's only coming in for the end, and yet he really wanted to be here with us. This is also his community. And maybe the last thing to say is Arawana was saying, as part of the Presencing Theatre, that they weren't getting that many stories of success. Not that they're not happening, but people were much more freely sharing stories of what wasn't working in the interviews. And so I think what's exciting about Peter's talk this morning is, at breakfast he was saying, so much is happening. Shift is happening. Good stuff is going down. And so I think he will be a perfect bridge for us in terms of the stories of hope, stories of change. So thank you, Peter. Let's put our hands together and welcome him.
Thank you. Okay, there's only one thing that's really important, and it's that. So don't let me forget. We have to finish so you guys get to your modules at 10 o'clock, right? It's really nice to be here. Is it okay if I stand down here? You see, okay? All right. This is Michael's place up here. So should see. Just leave that there. Let me just add one or two little bits of history that was kind of implied in Marianne's comments. It's a lot of fun for me to come back here, although I think it's been 3 years, maybe. The schedule shifted around, and it conflicts now with a longer standing commitment I have at MIT. So I apologize for being here only the last day, but I'm really also glad I'm here for the last day. But I was also here at the beginning, and I remember vividly many conversations with Susan and Michael and quite a few others when this was just an idea. This was a germ of an idea. So it's also really nice to be here on the 10-year anniversary of the germ starting to sprout and come alive. So it's a really, really nice feeling to be back here. It's obviously a little tricky to step into anything like this near the end. So I was a little bit apprehensive. Just, how do I be in tune with where you're at, I mean, I have a kind of obviously a general feeling for the design of this and what you've been doing, but I haven't been here. So I just ask for your permission to be a little out of tune if I'm a little out of tune. So everybody said, well, just talk about whatever you're doing now and forget about everything else. First I thought, like this is the last day, and last days of things like this, you got to pay attention to the transition. Transitions are really hard. Michael kind of already attended to that, I think, pretty well. I think there'll be a little more time for it later. It really is, in those transitions where a lot of the most uncomfortable learnings occur. And I think we all have to kind of cultivate an appreciation for the stumbles and bumbles and transitions from a quiet place to a crazy place, from a place where you're very peaceful to where there's real chaos around you. I mean, that, as Michael said, is life. It's the noises outside that we'd kind of like to keep outside, but sometimes they come inside.